I watched Senator Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham from South Carolina on Sunday morning. And I think it's terrific that even though I didn't like Chuck Schumer at all during the health care issue, you know, he's a senator, he's a Democrat, but he's a bright man, and yet he and a Republican senator were able to get together and try and craft an immigration bill. It's a very difficult issue, but they're working on it. They have a 4 pillars program, and there's a lot of it that makes sense, and there'll probably be some amendments. So I support those efforts. You know, solving the immigration problem isn't as easy as just saying one thing. You know, E-Verify is fine, and I think we're going to go that way. I'd like to also make it a little friendlier for business people to use it. I think if you look at the E-Verify site, they actually make it kind of inconvenient and almost make business people feel like they might get sued or have a human rights claim against them if they use it the wrong way. I don't think business people should face that. So I do support the bipartisan effort of Chuck Schumer and Lindsey Graham. I know that other senators are going to weigh in on that and craft it. But, you know, some issues have to be done in a bipartisan way. Thank you.
Next question.
I have a question for all 3 candidates. Would you either knowingly or in hindsight either employ directly or people who may be working as, quote, independent contractors, either convicted or arrested people with violent histories, specifically with violence against women? Thank you.
So what was the question?
I'm asking if you would knowingly either hire or have someone working on your campaign with a documented history of violence against women.
No, I would not knowingly do that.
Really? Well, you have.
Well, okay, so it's another setup, Will.
Yes, it was.
From another Rhode Island Republican Assemblies, 28 days later, thank you, Will. This is supposed to be a respectful forum for the voters of Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Twist it into your little personal agenda again. Thank you.
One of you gentlemen want to answer the question?
If the person had been convicted and served their time, I might consider it, depending on whether they were rehabilitated. But if I had a person who had been convicted and was liable to be convicted again, then no.
I agree with Mr. Clegg. I mean, you have to remember the term having paid one's debt to society, and in a case like that, you're looking at a case-by-case basis. Right now, however, I'm far more concerned with the crumbling financial foundation of our republic, and that's what I prefer to answer questions.
Next question then, to the left.
The 3 largest debt items are federal defense spending, Social Security, followed by Medicare. With Moody's and the bond rating agencies ready to downgrade U.S. debt, what would you do to improve our debt ratings?
Well, as I said earlier, you have to look at the problem and solve the problem rather than try and avoid politically charged issues. People have always said that Medicare and Social Security are the third rail of politics. You can't touch it, you'll get electrocuted. Well, I certainly hope that my body can conduct electricity because I need to touch those 2 things. In the case of Social Security, we have to move towards a defined contribution plan because the defined benefit plan we've had forever doesn't work. It never has worked. And it works even less now that we've taken all the money that was there to fund it and used it for something else. So you look at the lockbox these days, what you got is a bunch of IOUs from the federal government. And with Moody's downgraded, apparently on the horizon, those IOUs are going to be harder and harder to pay up on. The same thing with Medicare. We have to find ways to induce good, efficient management into the systems, and there are a number of them. In defense, we also have to reduce the cost of defense. We cannot reduce the effectiveness of defense, but by the same token, we are out there in 140 different nations today with American flag bases, and I guess I question do we need to be in every one of those nations. I mean, I used to work for a German firm, and there was a huge military presence in Germany in the Frankfurt, Darmstadt area. I thought we won that one 60 years ago. I guess I would see about redeploying some of those. There are ways to do it. We have to face it and fight it on all three of those issues.
Actually, education and healthcare outstrip defense spending in the U.S. currently, which is surprising when you start looking at some of the figures on our national budget. But as far as defense goes, I am a very strong proponent of a strong defense, and I think that the issue is what can we afford, and whether it's defense or health or education, we're going to have to look at cuts. But I think the issue with Congress is they're going to have to look at every program, every entitlement, and every priority that has been created over the last several decades and decide what to cut. And the first way to do that is to get representatives in there that are not going to be lifelong politicians. I'm doing this for 2 years, maybe 4. People say, oh, we love you. I know if that's going to happen, but I'm not going to be in there for 6 years, 8 years, or 10 years, I guarantee you. I think we all need to work now because there's an opportunity to try to get some of the people out that have caused the problem and then pass it on to our next generation once we're starting to solve it, and then they can carry the torch. But I'm not in it for a lifetime. I hope others aren't either, but we need to solve the problem, and it is through just cutting. And you can cut if you're not worried about getting reelected or your next political job, then you can have the courage to do it.
George Herbert Walker Bush has now been, they now come to realize that he was a greatly underrated president, and he should not have been a one-termer. He had the courage to, in a bipartisan way, do what had to be done for the Bush budget compromise. And that Bush budget compromise actually gave us the balanced budget that Clinton took credit for. And yet he was hung, even by his own party, because he had said, in order to get votes to appease the right of his party, he said, read my lips, no new taxes. And so to appease people at his convention, he said that. But then when he actually worked with Congress and he did his job, and he did a tremendous job, then he was hung out to dry for it. We have to be willing to do those kind of things. That's what real courage is, real courage. Now, for me, I see we can't print any more money. We can't just create more money. It really makes me nervous. I think we need to find money where we're wasting it. I think if we could create a nationwide marketplace in health insurance and cut premiums, a 10% cut for an individual plan would be about $500 a year per person. On a family plan, it's about $13,200 on average. It's actually more. So those totals are much greater than the 2007 stimulus checks. And it's year after year. Not only that, we're also offsetting the damage year after year of having, on average, 8% increases. So if we could simply solve the market, we'd find a lot of money to stimulate demand. Thank you.
I should probably put this into some context. I was recently appointed as the state chairman for the Rhode Island Caucus of Law Cabinet Republicans. A group of loyal Republicans who happen to be gay and lesbian and care about their country and care about their freedom and care about the direction that this president and this Democratic state legislator are taking this country and our state in. My question is two-part, and it is for all the candidates. Would you support a constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage? And where do you stand on civil unions or equal rights? And the information that you give me is going to be very important to me to take back to my caucus so we can see how we move forward during the election year. Thank you.
I'll start since I'm holding the mic. I'm not sure that a constitutional amendment is necessary in this area. And I start from the basis of something that I've taken since grade school, and that's the Pledge of Allegiance. And the Pledge of Allegiance always says, at the end, with liberty and justice for all. So I have no problem with liberty and justice for all as a true foundational concept. As far as civil unions, I'm for civil unions. As far as marriage, I think marriage is the province of religion, not civil government. And was there another part to your question, Ray?
That's it.
I always try to finish within my allotted time.
All right.